The year was 2025 and the world was at the brink of economic catastrophe. Donald Trump, having secured re-election the previous November, had unleashed a fresh wave of tariffs that sent tremors through global markets. His proposed reciprocal tariff, an astonishing 145% on imported goods, threatened to ignite an unprecedented trade war, one that could topple economies and throw millions into poverty. Mark Carney, the former governor of the Bank of England and now interim Prime Minister of Canada, found himself at the center of this maelstrom. It was March, and Justin Trudeau had abruptly stepped down earlier in the year, leaving Carney to lead a fractured Liberal Party into a snap election. The Conservatives, led by a reinvigorated Pierre Poilievre, held a commanding lead in the polls. But politics had to take a back seat. Canada, along with its allies, faced a crisis far larger than one election. Trump's tariff war threatened not just Canada, but the stability of the global economy itself. Carney was no stranger to high-stakes negotiations. He had spent decades navigating the labyrinth of global finance. But now he was preparing for his most audacious mission yet. Codenamed Operation Canuck, the plan was bold, daring, and fraught with risk. Carney would travel in secret to Europe, the United Kingdom, Japan, and other allied capitals to convince them of a radical solution. To gradually and quietly divest their holdings of U.S. treasuries, creating pressure on America's bond market without triggering panic. The goal was simple yet perilous: force Trump's team to retreat from their tariff agenda by striking at the heart of their economic foundation. Carney's first stop was London, where whispers of his arrival were confined to secured rooms in Westminster. The UK, already tense from Brexit aftershocks, was hesitant to antagonize the United States further. Yet Carney's reputation as a brilliant economist and negotiator carried weight. Over cups of Earl Grey and evening meetings in shadowy government buildings, he painted a dire picture of the fallout from Trump's tariffs, a world where economies collapsed under retaliatory trade barriers and financial markets descended into chaos. Slowly, the British government agreed to calculate the risks of his strategy. Next came Brussels, where Carney met with EU leaders in unofficial sessions far from public scrutiny. The stakes were even higher here. Europe's economy was strong but fragile in the wake of the pandemic recovery. Carney argued that coordinated action, starting with modest treasury divestments from major economies like Germany and France, could send subtle ripples through Wall Street without triggering open confrontation. In Tokyo, Carney leaned heavily on Japan's historic caution and expertise in financial strategy, urging its leaders to adopt the same gradual approach. Every move of Operation Canuck had to be deliberate, precise, and invisible to Trump's administration, which had an uncanny ability to weaponize even the faintest hint of dissent. Back in Ottawa, Carney's steely resolve drew ire from Trump himself, who fired off a stream of derogatory tweets aimed squarely at Canada. Yet Carney refused to blink. As allies began liquidating their U.S. Treasury bonds, the bond market began to shift, not with a short-term crash, but with a slow, steady rise in yields. Unbeknownst to Trump's team, Wall Street was quietly bracing for volatility. When the reciprocal tariff was set to go into effect in just 48 hours, Carney made a final push. He publicly condemned Trump's economic aggression in a fiery address, calling for global resistance to the reckless policy. Behind closed doors, he monitored the bond market's subtle response to Operation Canuck. Yields were climbing, investors were growing nervous, and then the tipping point arrived. Within 2 days, the bond market skyrocketed. Foreign divestments and investor panic created tidal waves that the White House never saw coming. Trump's team scrambled to contain the chaos, but pressure from Wall Street forced them to retreat. The reciprocal tariff was quietly shelved, a rare admission of defeat from the Trump administration. Carney's operation had worked. The carefully orchestrated sabotage of the bond market had neutralized the threat, sparing the world from economic catastrophe. Back in Canada, Carney faced the looming election where Poilievre still held the edge. But for a moment, politics faded into the background. Mark Carney had not only defended Canada's economy but preserved the fragile threads of global stability in the face of an existential threat.